Well, here we are. I'm just a little out of breath because I was kind of running to get here on time, and I have this overwhelming urge to say live from New York. No, but it's um, anyway. With that said, I'll leave it up to Shelley Ann to introduce herself and tell everybody why I said that. Okay.
Well, yeah, so I was hoping the background, would kind of just, make it slide and not mention anything.
Oh,
But
okay. Well, then don't mention anything. That's it.
no, that's fine, that's fine. So good day, everyone. I'm Shelly Ann Edwards Barron from Trinidad and Tobago, but actually I am live from New York today. So, hence the jacket and so on. We got snow on Tuesday, which was really cool. Um, so and as I was thinking about my intro today, I thought about the clients that I work with, and it occurred to me that the clients that come to me are usually, very organized. They have their lists and their to-dos and everything, and they have their goals and so on, but somehow they still feel stuck because they feel like they're working and trying everything, but nothing seems to be moving forward. And usually, when we get into it, we find out that they they're biting off large chunks because they feel like they have to get things done now, like time is running out on them. Because usually they are over 40, taking a look at their lives and seeing the gaps that are there. And when they see the gaps, they want to fill in those gaps as quickly as possible. And in an attempt to fill the gaps as quickly as possible, they try to do things in huge leaps and bounds. And that doesn't always quite work. So, what we do is to pause a minute, take a breath, and begin with gratitude, because that keystone habit of gratitude, daily practice, it actually helps put things into perspective. And then we get into the habits. So we assess their habits, we look at how they are attempting to achieve things. And so with the gratitude, we do the saying it right. So we look at their language, self talk. We think about saying it loud, so we get the gratitude tangible and in the physical world. And then we look at saying it always, which is where the habit comes in. And that often creates a foundation where they can add on other habits that build them gradually into the kind of systems and structures that really help them get to where they want to be. And so um, I really love talking about gratitude all the time, and so much so that I have a YouTube channel, Getting It Done with Gratitude. And just today we spoke about connecting gratitude and empowering yourself. So if you want to check that out, you can, Getting It Done with Gratitude on YouTube, and send me a message. Like I said, I love talking about gratitude. You can find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. And all the way from New York, too.
Yeah.
Uh, Cass, jump in there.
Yeah, hi, I'm Cass J. Henry. I'm struggling with a little bit of a head cold today, but I'm here and I'm present and I'm excited. I'm an abundance coach working out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and I offer my services both in person and virtually. As an abundance coach, it's my job to assist my clients in altering their perspective from one of lack to one of abundance. Together, we'll discover the power of tools like affirmations, habit creation, mindset work, goal setting, experimentation, and journaling, just to name a few. And our overarching goal is to achieve a more harmonious balance in life. So if you find yourself stuck and focusing on everything going wrong in your world right now, reach out and let's do a discovery call and see if we're a good fit. I'd love the opportunity to show you the abundance in your life right now. And you can find me on castjhenry.com.
Thank you for that. And my name is Stephen B. Henry. My friends call me Steve, and I'm a multi niched coaching practitioner, a published author, a digital content creator, an online presence consultant, a business success guide, and a personal development mentor. That's a mouthful, but the work I do encompasses the holistic you. I work with men and women who are wanting to start or expand their online presence. I also help them get unstuck in their personal and business lives so they can move forward with their online journey of success. I'm a Canadian living in the US, and I'm about equidistant from Cass and where Shelly Ann is right now. So it's turned into a equilateral triangle. Interesting. Uh, I guess my I Can mission statement says it best: to give as much value as I can to as many as I can, as often as I can, for as long as I can. And as I often say, the time to hire your guide is before you get lost in the woods. So, with that, we're going to jump into a sense of security, our topic for today. And I'm really glad that we kicked around the idea of security last week, and it became, in particular, a sense of security rather than just the term security. And I really like that because I've always kind of chafed against the idea, especially you see insurance companies that say secure your family. How does insurance secure your family? It pays out after a loss. I used to own a security company, an alarm installation company, and a lot of they're called security companies, but they're not really security. They're alarm companies. They provide an acknowledgement when something is happening. They notify the authorities. They don't actually provide security. The lock on your door provides more security than the alarm itself. So, this idea of security is so often misused, but a sense of security, a factor of mindset, is what we're talking about today. I hope, and we're going to get into that and see how that applies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, while you were speaking, I was thinking the alarm and the insurance, the type of security that it offers is that sense of security that if something happens, you have that to fall back on.
Yeah.
And so that is a different kind of security, not necessarily security from the danger, but security to know that if and when the danger happens, you would still be okay because you would get help and support picking up the pieces. And that brought up quite a bit for me. Cass and I were chatting before coming on. We were talking about the idea that you can feel secure and do things, and you can feel insecure in the same situation. It really is a bit of mindset, as you mentioned, Steve, because how we feel is really where we get that sense of security, not what actually is.
Yeah, some of the things that I came across were some of the signs of security with self, and they're a little bit surprising. Things like happy to be alone. That makes sense. You feel secure in yourself and you're okay to be alone. But the idea of showing compassion is a sign of self security. It's that willingness to to feel what other people are feeling, to feel safe in connecting with others. That idea of security in self, so that you can be your vulnerable self.
Hmm.
Um,
So,
also, sorry, go ahead.
no, so you're saying we're secure in feeling vulnerable. That's an interesting phrase, interesting sentence.
To be secure about being vulnerable or about feeling vulnerable, to
Uh-huh.
have that sense of security, regardless. Yeah, that's exactly where I was coming from in my introduction. The idea that whatever is going on around us, how we respond to it outwardly, and how we feel about it inwardly can determine whether we have a sense of security or not. And sometimes that sense of security comes from knowing what we can do, and sometimes that sense of security comes from those around us, the feeling we get from them, knowing that they can be there for us, which is an extension of what you said, Shelley Ann, in regard to insurance or an alarm system. The idea
Mhm.
that one will provide for you afterwards, so you know you can be secure about your situation, and the other will alert and call for help to deal with the situation. Reach out to others. Uh, I think that's a I want to say subtle, but it's not subtle. It's intrinsic to the whole concept of a sense of security. That you have to have that mindset, have that feeling, have that self worth. And so, as coaches, and I think we want to look at this topic from the coaching perspective, as coaches, we want to deliver that sense of security to our clients, to our charges, so that they um, can feel supported. Cass often refers to scaffolding rather than a support, and I think maybe that is a better interpretation, that they have this sense of being surrounded by uh, that which gives them comfort. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's interesting.
Yeah, Cass, you were adding a few more to the list. I know that one kind of really stood out for me, but I don't think you were finished.
Yeah, the idea that you don't need to be right, that it's okay to be wrong. That's definitely
Mhm.
part of that sense of being secure in yourself, and that if you're wrong, well, that's okay. It's okay it's okay to try and fail. Those that idea that um, if you put your best into something and you still fail, it doesn't mean that your best wasn't worth anything, because you're secure in that self worth, that self um, confidence, and the idea that you don't crave the limelight. So you're not really worried about what other people are thinking about you. You just are who you are, and that secureness in being yourself.
And I
Yeah,
think
Um,
that is huge, being yourself, because recently I had a conversation about, sometimes we talk about our new selves and the new you when it's really a revelation of who you actually are and not this new person. But we see it as new because sometimes we get so accustomed to um, being somebody else that when we are who we're purposed and we're developing into, it feels like a whole brand new person.
yeah, we're
yeah,
developing all the time, every day, in little ways. Everything that we encounter, everything we experience, changes us, and therefore we are not now who we were before. Um,
Mhm.
but but who we are is a sum total of all those things that came before. So we've changed, but we haven't changed in the sense of being a new
yeah,
you. We're still ourselves. We're just more and better. And Cass, a couple of the points that you made there, referred to the idea um, of gaining that newness, that addition, and the sense of self. And we experience that. I often say, I'm heard to say, I learn something new every day, and that's so true. I learn multiple things every day. Many of them I don't even realize I learn. There's so much happening around, but in particular, there are things that stand out every day that are new, and I didn't know them yesterday, so I can't fault myself for my actions without that knowledge. I can only improve by taking and internalizing that knowledge, and that adds to the sense of security. It makes you, each day you learn more, you get more, you feel more, you have more security, a greater sense of security, and that drives I just absolutely love learning new things. And today already, I mean, it's just after 10 a.m. here, and I've already learned a lot of things today that I had no intention of learning, in the sense that I didn't make a list of these things that I wanted to learn. A couple of them I didn't even know I didn't know. They were something completely new to my experience. So it was interesting to have that experience. So I think you can gain more from your experience when you have a sense of security, a sense of self-worth and value. You know who you are, and you appreciate who you are. And in knowing who you are, it's knowing that you don't know everything. You cannot know what you don't know. That's You have to accept that, and be secure within that. Not let that be a burden. That, I don't know things. What, oh me is my, oh
You
my,
know what am I missing? What don't I know right now?
yeah, and I really, I have worked with clients who really express that and feel that, and they're they're um, they're confounded by what they don't know, and when they realize finally that that is normal, that it is proper. We cannot know what we don't know, and we have to go forward into the unknown. What an adventure! Wow, we go
You've
forward
got
into the
you've got me here with Maya Angelou's quote: "Do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better."
exactly. Awesome. And so you have truly this adventure road that we follow called life. And
Mhm.
so better to do it with a sense of security, accept who you are, where you are, what you are doing, and, as Cass just said, do better. Do better. Know that you can do better.
Yeah. And I was thinking, sometimes how often do we really think about what brings security and what makes us secure? Quite often we operate from positions of fear, and like Cass would know, as an abundance coach, there's this scarcity and lack and anxiety surrounding that. And for many people, that's what they're operating from. So how then do we, as coaches, begin infusing security and thoughts of security into the relationships there?
Yeah.
I
It's,
think one of the places is to start with evaluation, right? Looking at those places where you do feel secure and where you don't feel secure, and what the difference is about them. And
Yeah.
it's the same idea with that self worth and confidence. What is that place in your life that makes you feel the best? And how do we encourage more of those places to occur in your life? So that evaluation and experimentation.
we have to be careful of getting into a place that feels secure, but really is hiding away from ourselves, from our own life, from our ability to move forward. And we 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 do that easily. The human spirit is quite readily capable of withdrawing into ourselves and into our little safety place, and our comfort zone. And
Yeah.
we you know we talk about being comfortable, being where we want to be, and sometimes we have to push the boundaries of that. We have to get out of our comfort zone. We have to reach out and move and find the ability to have the sense of security even when we are out beyond our comfort zone, beyond our defined boundary that works for us. And um, what Cass just talking about there, we talk about evaluating our performance afterwards, but evaluating where we are going from in order to do the performance is
Mhm.
often a very powerful step as well. And so sometimes you need to evaluate first, then do, then reevaluate.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
evaluate along the way as well, because this is a lot of course correction that can be done. And it so it's like I'm thinking, through the process of being secure, it's security through growth and not secure in one place, because we're always learning and growing and developing, and security in that process. Cass said something early on when she was going through the points of, what it feels like to be secure, and she mentioned being secure in making mistakes and understanding that that's okay. And I feel like that's one of the areas where many people really do get stuck. This belief that making a mistake is a problem. And when they make a mistake, they feel insecure about the mistake and the repercussions and all the issues that might come out of it, and then they may not want to try again because of that fact. And so there's where the anxiety and the fear starts to take hold, and insecurity steps in under the guise of being prudent and safe,
mm,
which really touches
Yeah,
on what you just said, Stephen. We get a little mixed up between secure and safe and stagnant, I think is the word I'm looking for.
yeah. I think that leaning into the fear, right, is part of that um, experimentation that comes, right? You can be secure in yourself. You can be resilient. You can have the ability to bounce back from things, from mistakes or failure when you are secure. You have that inner sense of security. And there's even been research done that says that this will bring down stress because you
Mhm.
know that if you try something, it's still okay, whatever the outcome is. So it's okay to keep trying again and again until you get the result that you want or you get somewhere that you want to be from that journey.
Mm.
yeah, one of my own mentors sees fear as an acronym for false evidence appearing real. And that's a good thing to remember because most of what we fear doesn't come to pass at all. And the little bit that does come to pass, most of that turns out okay. So, fear is really it's an old, um, archaic response, the flight or fight response that's genetically woven into us for a time when we needed it more than we do now. Certainly more than we do now, where all three of us live. We have a pretty good, uh, pretty good lifestyle. They talk about abundance. We have so much compared to what many other people in the world have, or what people in general had, generations ago. And we use words. Cass, you've used the word mistake a couple of times there, and I use it too. I certainly find myself doing doing other than I might share or say. And I was talking just yesterday about a book that I once read called "Yes, Yes, Living in a No No World." And the perspective of that book would suggest that we misunderstand this word mistake. It's not a mistake is not something that is intrinsically wrong. It's something we did, a positive action that didn't turn out the way we expected it to or the way we hoped it would.
Yeah.
And so it's not in itself wrong because it's an experience, it's learning. The principle of yes, yes, living in a no, no world is best exemplified by the typical Western stoplight that has a red, an amber, and a green bulb on it. And we call it a stoplight, but it could be called a go light because it's green as long as and as often as it is red. So, why do we call it a stoplight? It's because the stop factor impacts us more. We feel it more. We have to come to a stop. And I don't mean physically feel it. I mean, we're traveling down the road and oh darn, we have to stop again.
Mm.
I caught another red light. Oh no. Whereas when it's green, we just sail through it. Hopefully, we don't just sail through it when it's red either. But we do just sail through it when it's green. And I want to be clear about what I'm advocating here. But the fact is that many things that affect us in a dominant way are not really negative. The purpose of a stoplight isn't to stop people. The actual purpose of traffic lights in traffic is to keep traffic flowing. And so that it doesn't all jam up at the intersections and nobody gets to move. So by letting the other guy have a turn to go across, that actually benefits us in the long run. We need to think about these things in their true positive sense. And from that, we gain a sense of security in our own lives, that we realize we're not being impacted negatively by so many things around us.
I like to think of mistakes in that term of a mistake, as in, you're filming a movie and your mistake is not quite the one that you thought it was going to be. It's a
Yeah.
mistake, and then somebody ad libs something, and that makes it into the movie, and it's the best line ever, right? We hear those stories all the time. These mistakes become, memes later on. And so when you have a mistake in life, it could be something that is turning into the best thing that ever happened to you. When you bump into that person and you knock the coffee all over them, and now they're your partner. It's not just a Hollywood thing, right?
Yeah.
Things
It
happen.
it really is a matter of how we choose to look at things because as you said that, Cass, I remember an experience from my own life. I My first career was as a university lecturer. I taught university courses to undergraduate students. And what I do now, I teach young students from anywhere from 8 years old to 12. And had you asked me when I was a university lecturer, in fact, people often did, would you teach primary school level? Would you teach grade school level? And I would look at them and laugh and like, no, I would not do that because I like where I am. And then through a series of events, I just, okay, let me do this. And I did it. And now my entire career has changed. And so it's, it feels like, this is what I should have been doing all along. And I could look at it one of two ways. Either the university career was a mistake, and I should have just jumped into the primary school teaching all along, or um, the university career helped shape the way I think and see. And now I can actually tell parents, hey, at the university level, this is what applies because I was there, I've been there. And so there's a lot of comfort that I can give to a parent who's so anxious about this first level of examination and so on. And it's really a matter of how I look at it. And it could have been seen as a mistake because when I started my first degree, I was doing education, but then I stopped and made a change. And then I did project management, and that could also have been seen as a mistake. But everything, as Steve said, that I did before this point has shaped me and how I am now. And I am absolutely thoroughly grateful for all of it because it gives a really wide breadth of, experience that I could bring. And sometimes I look back at it and I think, the whole coulda, woulda, shoulda, maybe, but the value of what the experiences were, it makes a difference.
Yeah, I was going to say, as I was listening to what you were saying, There was a point where it just came to mind, and along the way you discovered gratitude. So you were doing something. You were certainly doing something right. Um, Life doesn't owe me a dime. You know, I'm the older, the elder among us, and I can speak from that perspective. And I have made a lot of choices in my life, a lot of choices. And I've often had people say to me, "Well, if you could go back there, would you do that different? And would you do that?" And I can immediately think of at least one alternative and maybe several alternatives for any choice that I made along the way, any that I can think of. There's probably, 100,000 choices I made that I can't even think of. But any of the ones that I can think of, I can easily suggest alternate choices at the time. The very fact that they are a choice means there was something else I could have done, but often there are many other things I could have done. And I can quickly get into that rabbit hole of, well, what if, and if I made that choice, what would have happened? But I honestly, truly cannot come up with any alternate choice that I might have made that I'm more satisfied with or would have been more satisfied with than the way things went with what I did choose. And some of them you could look at and say, well, that wasn't very good, or that turned out badly, or that didn't turn out the way it could have or it might have, but it turned out the way it did, and I built upon that, and I have no argument with that. And where I am today, I'm here because of all of those choices. And you know if this is the best moment in my life or if this is the worst moment in my life, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm functional, I'm doing what I want to do. Wow, how many people get to this point in their life and can say that? So, talk about abundance, Cass. I have this immense sense of security with where I am in my heart, in my mind, in my soul, that life doesn't owe me a dime. And you want to get to that point wherever you are in your life. You want to be looking positively at the things that are around you. Um, Dr. Wayne Dyer, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at the things you look at change. So
Yeah.
you want to change the way you look at your life to see it as abundance rather than lack, because it is amazing the opportunities, the doors, the experiences that one change makes. When you carry a sense of security, it is immense. Cass, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say this is a little meme that's been floating around the internet probably longer than I saw it. But the idea that people are so worried in science fiction that if you do time travel and you change one little thing, it's going to change all of the future. But people are never worried or never think about the fact that if they do one little thing in their life, right now, right here, that it can change all of your future. What doors are you opening? What abundance are you living that you can see right now in your life that can open and to change for the future of you? So, it can be those very little things. It can be setting your alarm clock 5 or 10 minutes earlier in the morning and getting up and writing about gratitude. Like that could be the thing that changes everything for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's,
And
it's putting those, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, sorry. I When you said that, I thought, and with what Steve said earlier as well, the sense of security, what that physically manifests as and what it looks like is different for everybody. But the feeling of being secure and feeling safe, that feeling we can describe, and that one we know. What that means for Cass, what that means for Steve, what that means for me is going to look different. But that feeling we can describe, because when that, like Stephen, I think we've all made choices that other people might say, hey, you should have done this. So if you had done that, you would have been better off. And my question is always better off than what? Because I think I'm pretty good right now.
Yeah, when we stop measuring success in dollars, we discover a whole new world. Um, I spent a large part of my early life chasing dollars. Um, to me at that time, success, it started with the dollar sign, not with the letter S, and had two more of them at the end. I mean, that was the concept of success. And it took me, oh, I guess the first 30 years of my life to really understand and separate the difference. Um, the money is great, and was it Samuel Clemens that said, "I object to millionaires on principle, but it would be dangerous to offer me the position." Um, the yeah. I mean, by all means, if you've got some spare money you don't want, send it my way. I'll be glad. I,
Yeah,
I can.
me too, Steve. You
I,
can't talk all of that. I want some too.
I'm big on
I'm good.
sharing, and I can tell you that I can put it to good use, but that's not the purpose. That's the byproduct. When you understand where the purpose lies, then
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to move forward. And when you get fear under control, so many people are controlled by their fears. They're held back by their fears. When they can find that sense of security in where they are right now, because for most people, that lack to abundance, fear to security, that's possible without any major change in what you're doing. It
Hmm.
just requires a different perspective. Shelley Ann, you use the word perspective a lot, and every time I hear you use it, I'm nodding my head, because that's what it's all about. Is your position
Your
remains the
mindset, your
same, but your mindset exactly
Yeah.
has a different approach to what's around you, and then the path opens up. Then we turn those stumbling blocks into stepping stones, and we move forward and upwards. Yeah.
so that's one of those practical things that you can do to help yourself with a sense of security. You can actually take some time and look at the good things in your world. You know what's going on that's working for you, and focusing on that, and um, duplicating that kind of thing in your life.
And the thing for me is recognizing that there's always something. When I know when people are in that sense of scarcity and lack and fear, they they often find difficulty in recognizing what is working, and what is possible, and hope is often very limited, if it exists at all, because the first thought for them would be, this didn't work out. And like in my case, for example, when let's say I have a class scheduled and the student doesn't turn up. Let's say class is scheduled for 4 o'clock. Student doesn't turn up at 4, and quarter past 4, half past 4, no message or anything. That for a teacher, that's an issue because I prepared for this lesson and so on. And other people sometimes tell me, when that happens, doesn't that upset you? I always have something to do. So I'm always working on something. So if someone doesn't turn up, I do something else until they turn up. And if they never turn up, then I got that other thing done. And so for
Mhm.
me, I don't get upset anymore. Let me say that, anymore, because it used to really, really bother me. And I would be there and I'd be, angry and churning and trying to message the parent and trying to call and what's the issue, why didn't you tell me? And then I realized my time, I can use my time and I can choose what I do with my time. And that shift didn't cost me anything, nothing financially. it really gained me a lot of peace. And so that position of operating from grace and compassion, I would like to think that if something happened in my situation and I can't make an appointment, that I'm given grace and compassion. And so I try to give it out to other people. I mean, it would be nice if everybody does exactly what they say they would do and things work out perfectly, but doesn't always happen like that.
Well, you guys gave me such grace and compassion today because I came in literally a full minute late when I'm usually here in advance, and you waited for me, and you didn't berate me about it. We made it work, and here we are. And I had a technical problem that I resolved, but I have no idea what the problem was because I tried different things and finally it worked. So, but I'm not sure which one of those things actually led to it working. And we could have got into it about, well, gee, Steve, why weren't you here on time? You should have started early. I had a boss once that always used to say you should start early. Well, since you can't know what's going to go wrong and how long it's going to take to fix it, how early do you start? Do you start so early that you arrive before the business is open and sit in the parking lot waiting for it, just in case something happened along the way that held you back by that amount of time? And so we have to get in control of ourselves, but we can't always be in control of the world around us.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
we have to accept that. And so many people are stuck. This is what I do. I get people unstuck. Cass has used that phrase too, and I know Shelly Ann does the same thing. But we get people unstuck because so often they are stuck because of things that are controlling them that they don't have to let control them. And if
Hmm.
they had a proper sense of security and understanding of what is going on around them, and their sense of direction, as Gerald would have said, and their goals and plans and strategies for those goals, they would be in a better place. And so, the majority of my clients are other coaches. I'm known online by many as the coach's coach. And I don't only coach coaches, I have a range of people in a variety of different online professions. At the moment, all of my clients are online professionals, where sometimes I do work with people who are engaged in what we might call real world businesses. But but as I say, the majority of the people that I do work with are coaches themselves, and they're pretty bright coaches that have figured out that, hey, if they can justify their service to other people, many of whom are accomplished professionals, then how can they possibly think that they don't need and benefit from a coach themselves? And I have coaches, so this is a process. Coaching is an admirable profession, and as coaches, you give so much to others, but you also need coaching. You also need motivation. You also need these processes that lead to greater success. And a sense of security, I think, is bedrock. It is foundational for all of the other things we do. We've talked about a lot of things in these sessions, but when we really come down to it, um, that sense of security is what I think we all feel, along with gratitude, along with the habits that we have, along with looking at things from a sense of abundance and the various approaches that we take to these. I think we all have a pretty fair sense of security, knowing who we are, where we are, and what we want to do. And from that, we can then build upon it to all these other accomplishments. Powerful, powerful stuff that we kind of toss out here as a topic and we get into a discussion. But when you are discussing it and you're thinking about it, I mean,
Yeah.
I've thought more about a sense of security in the last 48 hours, probably, than I'm aware of all of this so far and last year. And yet, even just in talking about it in the last, what has it been, 45 minutes that we have kicked this around, I've picked up more gems. It's, you talk about what's the story about the guy who finds diamonds in his backyard? Acres of Diamonds, or An Acre of Diamonds. I forget the title of the book, but
Yeah.
the idea that you go afield looking for these things and you find them right in your own backyard, right in your own self, and your sense of self worth. Wow, it's a sense of security. Love it.
And it's really all about taking the steps, taking the chance, being okay with putting yourself out there. And and I think for me that was a huge shift, taking that chance and recognizing that if it doesn't work out the first time, I can try again. Doesn't work out then, I can try again. If it doesn't work out after that, maybe I can try something else, but I'll still be trying.
Yeah,
That's what I started with, right? Being secure enough to be
Yeah,
vulnerable, taking
yeah.
that chance, putting yourself out there,
yeah,
knowing that you might have a mistake, and from that you may learn more than you ever thought. Yeah,
And
that
and,
that sense
and
of
being okay
confidence.
with that. Being okay with that.
yeah. There's a lot of what I refer to as old adages that are thrown about, memes we call them today in many cases. And Shelly Ann, you just referenced one of the big ones. If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Yeah.
And notice that it says try again. It doesn't just say try again, because you may have to try multiple times. Unfortunately, so many people misinterpret adages, and they end up either saying or doing the alternate. If at first you don't succeed, give up. And that's not the way to go about it. And we do that with so many things. We fall back on a falsehood instead of remembering and examining the wisdom of the ages, that what it's really sharing with us. Money is the root of all evil. No, that's not what it says. That's not
Yeah.
what it says. Go back to basics. The love of money, avarice or greed, the love of money is the root of all evil. Money's fine. Money does wonderful things. It's just an exchange mechanism. But you have to understand how these things go. And getting that sense of security is just as much a necessity of understanding what it is about, what that mindset is, in order to be able to move forward, to be able to have the vulnerability and still move forward, to have a failed experience, a mistake, a mistake, however we wish to define it, that we're going to learn from it and keep moving forward. And as I've already said, and I put this phrase out fairly often, is changing stumbling blocks into stepping stones. They're the same blocks, they're the same rocks in our path, but we can either trip over them, or we can daintily step along them, and they can aid us in our direction. It's how we look at them, it's how we
Yeah.
feel about them, it's where that security comes from.
I just want to slip in here before we run out of time. Um, if you're feeling no sense of security, and if you're feeling really down, and if anything we've talked about hasn't helped with any of that, seeking a professional opinion in the sense of a doctor is probably a good idea.
Mm,
Depression is something that can rob you of your sense of security, and that's something that a
Hmm.
coach is not going to help you with.
yeah,
Your general practitioner, or somebody at an emergency room, is somebody that, if you don't have a doctor, because I know a lot of people in Canada, the US, other places in the world don't have a doctor, so it is important to seek help if you're not feeling anything good
yeah,
inside.
yeah, yeah. That's very important. First of all, it's something that we as coaches should always do, is
Hmm.
feel get a sense of the person, and if the problem is tending to a medical condition, we should refer them to a medical practitioner at least first. Let the medical practitioner be the one to evaluate them, and
Mhm.
based on whether they need further medical attention or whether they can come back to us, immediately. And then, of course, they can always come back to us when the medical issue is resolved. But that's something that, again, talk about learning. And just a couple of days ago, I listened actually to a TED talk, which is one of the things that I really enjoy. A lot of really good information there. And
Yeah.
somebody was talking about the nature of some of the medical conditions that people have. And they went through a spectrum of these conditions that included anxiety and some of them being more intrinsic conditions that aren't going to go away but need to be, what do you call them, chronic conditions that need to be treated medically. And then they can get their lives under control, and then they can move forward. So Cass, you bring up an astute point there that is something we
Mhm.
really, all of the coaches listening today need to take that advice and understand. That's a key factor in our practice as coaches, that we have to be willing to you know uh, refer the issue up the chain to somebody
Yeah.
else. And as a coach, it probably doesn't hurt to have a doctor in mind, and even to reach out to a doctor and have a cup of coffee with them, and buy them lunch and talk to them about what they should, what we should refer, and how to go about referring. And does that doctor take those kind of referrals, or do they know somebody who does?
Mhm.
Being prepared, having your quiver full of the right arrows, it's
Yes.
not a bad process.
Because it's not about us, it's about the client. And if it
Absolutely.
is they need something beyond what we currently have, then that's best practice to really refer. And I wanted to add to what Cass is saying. So, quite aside from the coaches speaking directly to the clients, it is not just in your head. And I hear people say that all the time. It's just me. You know, I'm feeling this and this, but that could just be me. No, find out. Don't just leave it and decide that it is just you because it's not convenient to someone else. Find out. Speak to
Yeah.
someone and find out.
There are physical ailments that manifest themselves in depression or anxiety or erratic behavior, a variety of things that can be treated, should be treated, and
Mhm.
in some cases must be treated because they are going to eventually be life threatening. And
Yeah.
your initial signs of those things are not a big welt on your hand, or a
Yeah.
bloodshot
Yet
eye.
they don't come out with bells and whistles and parade, right?
Exactly. And so it's worth getting a physical checkup from time to time. I mean, medical practice recommends
Mhm.
them, an annual physical. But if you spoke to a doctor, he'd love to do a physical on you every month, not because he's wanting the money. Go to a country where the doctors are paid a salary, and not based on performance, and they'll still tell you they'd like to, check you over more often than is done, and more often even than is possible. But because there are signs that they can detect, they have the capability, and
Mhm.
they can arrest issues before they become a serious problem. And we tend not to do that. We tend to ignore those signs. And powerful.
I I suffer from chronic pain, and it wasn't until that I started using a medication for off label for other reasons that also treats chronic pain that I realized You mean that's not just the price you pay for having a body? A body shouldn't feel like that. This is chronic pain. I was in pain for years and years and years before I knew I had chronic pain, and then this pill suddenly changed my life, and it gifted me back my life. And that's something I know from depression too, is that, chronic pain allows you doesn't allow you to do a lot of things, and then that can lead to depression. And so treating the depression without treating the chronic pain wouldn't have worked. You have to go backwards and treat that underlying thing, right?
Hmm.
And so if there's a doctor that can do that with you, that's great. And then come to your coach.
Yeah, and that's okay because I know, like in my neck of the woods, getting medical help, and whether it is for mental health or physical health, there's almost a kind of stigma attached to it where, it's like if you're seeing a doctor, it means that something is wrong with you, and that's an issue. When I'm thinking, no, on the other side of learning and doing better because now I know better, it's like, why wouldn't I choose something that would help enhance my life? Why why wouldn't I want to live a better life? Why should I live with this pain because having the pain makes me weak, but I'm in pain? So it's a whole conversation. It's a whole
Yeah,
conversation, but
sorry
most
to hijack the
definitely,
conversation,
yeah.
No,
but
that
No,
it
was
is
it's
important.
it's
that was good.
yes, it's worth
Yeah,
saying. It's worth mentioning.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cass, have you thought of, or does a topic for next week come out of what we've been talking about?
Absolutely. One of the words that came up many times tonight, other than perspective, was choice. Choices. And I went and looked, and I
Ah,
don't think we've done choices yet. And I think having conscious choices, some sort of,
I'm all for
yeah,
that choice. If I could, if I could synthesize down the things that I do to a handful of keywords, choice would probably be at the top of the list.
yeah.
Uh, my number one choice would be choice. I, 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 I truly think that that's so important to growth
Yeah.
and we all have difficulty as much as I talk about choice, love choice. We all have difficulty making choices. We don't want to make the wrong choice. We don't want to be wrong. So this is a good. That's a good choice, Cass. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And it flows really nicely out of sense of security because your choices are affected by whether you're coming from a sense of security or operating from a sense of fear,
Uh,
and that makes an impact
yeah,
for sure.
we have a lot to talk about on this one. I'll tell you.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
might need a
Cass.
part two. We might need
Yeah,
a part two with choices.
yeah. It's one of those.
Definitely.
It's one of those. It's one of those small words that has big
Hmm.
connotations. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's good.
Hmm.
And what do we want to say to wrap this up then on a sense of security, Kaz?
um, one of the things we didn't touch on that I wrote about was just the idea that having that cultural and identity security, knowing that you are with people that get you, that understand you, your crew, that gives you a really good sense of security. And I think that finding those people, reaching out, doing the activities to connect with those people, is something that will help you with your base level of security.
And networking
Amazing.
can lead to security.
Yeah.
Shelley-Ann.
Yeah. So then you're not alone. And for me that's a big thing because I know when I first got started in personal development and deciding, making the choice of becoming who I really am and so on, feeling alone and that I had to do it alone was something that came up often. And so whenever we have these kinds of discussions, I feel a really huge sense of gratitude that I'm not having this talk alone. I am with you guys, Steve and Cass, because it makes a difference. And so when you know that you're not alone and you don't have to face any of these things alone, then that makes it a lot easier to get done. There's a lot more hope and it just feels possible. So definitely reach out, whether you're reaching out first to a professional or a coach, trusted friend. Just know that you don't have to do it alone.
Mhm. Yeah, that I think really sums it up because we all can feel lonely. We all can feel even abandoned, and so the sense of security comes when we feel, when we are of the mindset that we can do it, and having others to help us, to encourage us, that network, that community that backs us, really, really helps
Yeah.
with the sense of security. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. We covered a lot today. Thank you, everybody who's watching. I hope you've got some value out of this. Please let us know if you do watch this and you do, you do find something of value in it. If you think it's worth being done, just put a comment wherever it is that you see this. Um, Put a comment to let us know. We're in communication with each other on a regular basis, and we'll share those comments. If we see them by ourselves somewhere, we will, uh, reach out to the others and share them. So your comment won't go unnoticed. We certainly appreciate them. And with that, thank you and goodbye for this week. We'll see you next Thursday.
Next Thursday.